They're all stuck in that kind of mindset that by somehow automating these industries and trucking industry that they're doing us some kind of favor. They're not. They're trying to sell you on a slow kill is what they're trying to do.
Sometimes when you're driving down the road all by yourself, you begin to hear a voice that tells you need to look around, pay attention. Maybe something isn't quite right. That voice is me. It's the voice of Gord. Hey everyone, welcome back. How's it going? What a great title for the show, for this episode, from my colleague Mitchell Riesgraff. They're trying to sell you on the slow kill. Yeah, our subject matter we're all discussing in this roundtable today is the ongoing implementation of autonomous truck technology, driverless trucks. And so I've got a good crew here, some new faces, some old. And you'll get to meet all of them once the show gets rolling here. Just wanted to say, hope you're having a good summer and you're trucking out there safely. Been a whole bunch of crashes again because, we can do anything except pay competent and skilled drivers what they're worth, including putting illiterates, imbeciles, ex-cons, sex pests, and all kinds of people behind the wheel of trucks who shouldn't be there. And that's how our economy is currently rolling. So how about that? It's been a little while since I did a show on the autonomous stuff. There's so much stuff going on in trucking, as always, very dynamic industry. Lots of focus on the illegals and in-sourced labor as of late, especially for me and my writing in this show. And lots of people are still interested in the topic of these autonomous driverless trucks, so I wanted to assemble a crew and get all the latest updates. We talk about financing of them, how Hirschbach is doing in chasing down one of my guests and sending the FBI after him for his pointed criticisms of the people that run Hirschbach. Lots going on with the marketing, with bogus crap. My friend James Year helps disentangle it all. He's probably the most well-versed, well-informed guy on this particular subject in the country. I love having James on. I hope you enjoy his contributions here. There's going to be a lot of links. We discuss various other pieces in the media and reports and really good information, so make sure you go through the show notes and check all that stuff out. Have a read, get yourself educated on this stuff, and pass it along. My show relies on word of mouth. I don't have an advertising budget. I have no budget. I have no money. Nobody pays me for this. I refuse to take sponsorships or coupon codes or anything, not to be a purist or whatever, but I want to be able to say whatever I want, and I don't want to be caught up in anyone else's drama. There's so much of that. I'm thinking about I already have dialed my social media presence down a little bit. I took Twitter off my phone, took Substack off my phone, and there's going to be a couple more episodes of the podcast here this summer, and then it might go quiet for a little while. I'm unsure of many things and have much to consider. That said, in the meantime, I really looking forward to bringing you this. Took me a little while to get the crew assembled, to get everybody a time that worked for all of us, and I'm very excited to bring you this presentation from Mitch, James, Paulette, and a new gentleman to my show, Mr. Josiah Henry. You might know him from YouTube as Wildbeard, sort of commentator on the goings-on with autonomous trucks that I've been introduced to recently. Very happy to have him on the show. I'll have a link to his YouTube channel amongst all the awesome show notes. As always, if you have any questions, corrections, suggestions, comments, hate mail, tell me I'm wrong about something, go right ahead. Gordylocks@protonmail.com. Also in the show notes, by all means, send me an email. Be happy to hear from you. And so y'all enjoy the rest of your summer. And I got a couple more episodes out to you here in the next week or two. Make sure you're safe out there. Yeah, be careful on the highway. It's a mess out there, and I want to make sure nothing befalls you or your families. And one last thing. My book's been out now for a couple months. If you haven't bought it yet, please, by all means, go check it out. End of the Road, Inside the War on Truckers. Available at creedandculture.com. Hardcover, e-reader, or 12 hours of audiobook narrated by me. Don't you just love this voice? So please avail yourselves of a copy. It's really good. People love it. I was just at a great little mini conference this weekend. Got my first paid speaking gig to talk about the surveillance in trucking and in other areas of society. Had a great time with some folks down in the Hudson Valley, and was very well received. Sold a few copies there. Everybody loves it, so please go check it out. Avail yourself of a copy today. And let's get to the show. All right, g'day everybody. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Voice of Gord podcast. I'm Gord, and this is my voice. Got a roundtable here for you today with multiple voices. And so I'm going to let all of them introduce themselves. A couple of returning guests, one new one, and another gentleman we're waiting to log in here in a little while. And the roundtable discussion is going to be a little update on autonomous trucks, a subject I've touched on a few times on this show in my writing and devoted a whole chapter of my book to. Very, very new and evolving technology. And with all of these things, there's money and economics and politics and lots of stuff involved. And, not all is what it seems out there in the world of media, who are not always the most trustworthy bunch. So I brought you a number of experts and people who've interacted with it to join the show today. And I'll start with multiple guest of the show and colleague, Mr. James Year, checking in from Baltimore, I think.
Yep. So, I'm James Year. Some of you all probably saw me from the More Perfect Union video that I did last year, trying to get a part two off the ground, and some other fun stuff is in the works. But been following it for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, as part of your master's program at Syracuse University, stealingfire.tech, everybody should go check that out.
Yeah, which desperately needs some updates with all the new things that are happening right now. But it seems like it's finally at the point with all the new shenanigans that have been happening to give it a total overhaul.
Yeah, well, you're also a busy guy because you teach in some capacity at a school in Baltimore, yeah?
Yeah, teach photography, then do some freelancing on the side of that. So I'm working on a music video for Long Haul Paul right now, and then just same old.
Shout out Long Haul Paul. Saw him a couple months ago at Matt's. Paulette, say hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paulette Nobles. I've been a truck driver for I don't know how many years. Used to own my own flatbed company. And I used to work construction way back in the day. So I have been a shipper, receiver, and an owner, and just a plain old truck driver.
All sides of the equation, and very famously joined this program a little while back to discuss your experience at Hirschbach, where they were kind of using you as a guinea pig.
Well, they were actually using all the drivers as guinea pigs, and I think they still are with their AI cameras to program and help program the trucks for Aurora.
Right, and we're going to get to more of that with our other guest, Mr. Josiah Henry, who goes on the name Wildbeard on YouTube. Mr. Henry.
Hey, what's up? Wildbeard here, and I'm just a truck driver, and I make videos sometimes, and I really enjoy interacting with truck drivers. I like the working class, labor class, and anybody that's just trying to make a living and provide and put food on the table for their families. That's the people that I really care a lot about, and I like to listen to them and hear them talk, and I care about, that those are the the demographic, I guess, is my I've been a truck driver now for 9 years. I think this is my ninth year. So definitely not a rookie, but definitely not super experienced either. So, but came here to learn and just share my experience and what's been going on with the autonomous trucks and everything of that dynamic.
Right. So my show is an audio podcast almost exclusively. And for any of my folks who have not heard about your YouTube channel, could you describe it and exactly what you do over there?
Yeah, it's more of a vlog. The past several videos have been, for the past several years have been vlog videos. I've just been showing lifestyle content, pretty much life on the road, what it's like to drive over the road and regionally, and fueling up and shippers and receivers, and just sharing my experience with breakdowns and different things like that. Just life on the road, and if you're a truck driver for any length of time, you know that all kinds of things happen on the road, and there's plenty of footage and plenty of things to talk about. And that's really been the gist of what I've done. I worked for Hirschbach for from 2019 to 2020, so about a year and 7 8 months. The first time was an owner operator for a couple years, then came back to Hirschbach in 2023, and just recently left them in 2026, just like a couple months ago.
But from what I hear, they're not leaving you.
Yeah, they really like me. They can't stop talking about it, man. So, but and I like it. It's all good. It's been an eye-opening experience with everything that has happened and transpired between me and Hirschbach. That has been for sure. I never expected to what it is today, to what's going on now. I just
Right.
never expected it to elevate to the level it has.
So Hirschbach very famously is partnered with Aurora Innovation, who are supposedly the leading autonomous truck system developers, and bought a. They have some kind of arrangement with Aurora for purchasing however many of these systems. I think there's some more recent news on that. You or James could fill me in, and I think they took some exception to the way you discuss this on your YouTube show.
Yeah, it actually. And several months ago, I kind of left the company, and I kind of left the last video I did in leaving the company through the vlog was I just kind of talked about, at the very end, I talked about how their CEO, Richard Stocking, I was scrolling through some videos on LinkedIn, and there was a video of him speaking, and I played the video, but he just pretty much said, like, Hirschbach is a safe company, but Aurora takes that to a whole new level. And that for me was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I had known about their ties with Aurora for several years. They had been very open about that to the fleet. But when he said that, that kind of just was like, hey, I'm done, man. Like, I'm out of here. I don't want to work here anymore. I had I had things set up. I knew a lot of people at Hirschbach because I'd worked there for several years. You build up, your friendships and relationships with those people. So it was very hard for me to leave, but I did it, and I left semi peacefully. I left a little bit of a ruckus, but left. And then several months later, that's when they made the announcement about they did a mass layoff, and some of my friends were laid off. There was like 80 some, 90 some people. There's been several layoffs at the company, but that one was a very large one, and got leaked out to the other drivers. I got a lot of screenshots from the messages. They're like, hey, don't know if anybody knows, but there's a big layoff Friday, da 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 da. And so that happened. And then several days later, that's when they announced that they were going to get 500, up to 500 autonomous trucks for the year 2027. So they did this big layoff where people that I knew and that were my friends lost their job. And then they announced the truck purchase. And it just really frustrated me. It was just like,
That's some pretty terrible timing. Like whoever
yeah,
was in charge
the
over there wasn't
worst,
thinking
man.
about it too hard.
And I just don't think they realized how terrible it looked. But it was already, I was already infuriated with like the direction the company was going. And I understand times are hard at some, you got to close down, you got to do layoffs. I understand business, not an idiot, but just the announcement of the driverless trucks just sent me to a whole new level. And I created a post on Facebook. And within 30 minutes, their lawyer started calling me after I put a picture up of me with my hands on two executives, looked like managers' heads, like kneeling before me. And I put it up. And then I just said in the post, I said, everybody should leave Hirschbach. Like, that's what I said. Like, and it's like, you want a war, we're going to give you a war. And I said, everybody should leave Hirschbach. And it was a very edgy photo, AI photo or whatever. I knew it was, but still, like, but within 30 minutes, they had it. They were calling me. Their lawyer,
So there
Brian.
was no uh implication or call to violence at all in the image.
No,
text.
no. It was definitely a call to war, like a metaphoric war. Like it was and I when I left the company, I didn't damage the truck. I don't want anybody else to damage any trucks. Like, I didn't damage my truck when I turned it in. I left peacefully from the company, got all my I's dotted and T's crossed. So
let's put a pin in that. I see Mitchell just hopped on here. I want to get back to that because you're this sort of online, let's just call it a stunt for lack of a better word. This post you made ties into something that a piece of news I got last night, and I want to connect the two things and then get to a larger point. This is a good spot to do it. Mr. Reescraft, what's going on?
Hey guys, sorry about that. I had kind of a crazy day and I got let loose. I got let loose from a company today. So yeah, anyway, different story.
Mitchell Reescraft, a former guest of the show, also very knowledgeable about autonomous trucks. Where are you checking in from today, sir?
Well, I'm going right now. I'm headed westbound down Highway 20 across Iowa in a rental car coming home after being released from a company. And yeah, so I see a certain gentleman there that I kind of recognize a little bit from some videos about Hirschbach and such. That beard's pretty unmistakable, man. Good job standing up to him. You're definitely the same sort of thread me and Paulette are from. We kind of ousted them what was that, a year or two ago when Richard Stocking first got involved with Aurora and we were putting the
Yeah,
AI
about
cameras
that.
in.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
left before we did the podcast. I was like, because once they find out I did this, they're going to find a reason to fire my ass. So I left before
right.
we went live.
So that all started from a project from an advocacy group that Paulette and I were from called CDL Drivers Unlimited. They're now kind of retired. But what it came down to was I was the Iowa State chair for the organization. Paulette was working for Hirschbach, and we got wind of all these AI cameras different companies were putting in and trying to figure out why. Well, you put two and two together. Where's the data flow? Where's the bloodline that feeds the autonomous data? Where are they getting it from? Every camera out there that's AI capable is feeding into what Aurora is doing. Okay.
Well,
And
not just Aurora,
yeah,
dear, every company that's
every
working with
company.
AI.
Yeah, right. Every company with AI, Gatic, plus AI, all of them, right? They're all data feeding off of this stuff. Right. You make a great point, Paulette. Aurora just gets a big run of the heat because they are who they are. They're in the front line, front of the show.
Well,
So what?
actually,
Yeah,
Aurora actually puts out more media and social
yeah,
media than the other
right,
guys. They're more secretive. So that's why Aurora gets the brunt
right,
of it because they're out there and
Yeah,
everybody
well,
else is being
right,
sneaky.
yeah,
right,
just right before I
right.
fired this
Otto
up.
was the first company to do the autonomous trucks. A company called Otto was the
Mm-hmm.
first one. And then, but yeah, just like what you're saying there.
Just
So anyway, things go on, and all of a sudden, Paulette starts feeding me the insider training modules from Hirschbach and says, how do we get this out without me getting in trouble? I said, just feed it to me and I'll get it to the right people, Gord and other media people, and we'll oust them. We'll get them. And that's exactly how things transpired. And then now we fast forward to where, oh, they want to make a big push, 500, right? 500 trucks with Aurora, all that.
Yes.
And then here we are with I don't know your name, sir, with the beard there, but I start seeing your, and I'm just like, all right, cool. This is exactly what I want to see happen is all this, massive stuff go on. Okay, so there it is. Josiah Henry. Okay.
Yeah.
So I start seeing your content and that, and other advocates were talking about stuff, and we're seeing the right effect happen over there at Hirschbach. And that's exactly what we need to have happen is we got to be able to stand up to these companies in one way or another. And the biggest way to stick it to them is don't work for them.
Yeah.
Right. Well, one of the things, and Josiah here can back me up because I just have sources at Hirschbach and I wasn't there, and he's been there more recently than I. But one of the things I heard is Richard Stocking came out with a video and said, yeah, we got an option to get 500 trucks, but we're only going to get 25. And he came out because all the drivers were in an uproar over that. And so
Right.
this is what I've been told by, drivers there. And some of them believe him and some of them think, it's all baloney.
It's definitely a contract where they could buy up to 500. They don't have to buy
Right.
500, but it's like that's what they signed that they will buy up to. So
Right.
the number that they're going to buy is who knows. But financially now they've taken another big hit. They're having shops closed down. It's Hirschbach's taking the hit. They're taking hits
Good.
big time with drivers and everything.
So
Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
to can I interrupt everybody here? I'm gonna do the host's prerogative because I don't want to lose my train of thought. So Hirschbach makes this announcement. Mr. Wildbeard here is causing a bit of a ruckus. Mitchell and Paulette have been doing what they've been doing with Hirschbach, and last night I got home from a sort of long weekend away, and I checked into Twitter after not being on it for a couple of days, and a friend of the show, Craig Fuller, CEO over at FreightWaves, was put up a video talking about how he was contacted by owners of mega fleets, saying that it's been very difficult for them to find drivers, right? So Craig very famously believed the driver shortage narrative, then stopped believing it and came around to the fact that there's a gazillion drivers out there, but the jobs all suck. And now he seems to be floating back towards the driver shortage narrative. Maybe not explicitly. I don't know. Maybe he'll come back on my show here and explain himself. But the issue here is we are in an interregnum period, right? Everybody paying attention knows all about the autonomous trucks are coming. As friend of the show Will Cook likes to say, they're going to flick a switch, and then that'll be that. I don't know if it's going to be that simple. There's going to be, adoption by certain companies, and I'll kind of, slowly get into certain sectors. But here's the thing: when everybody knows that, who's going to go to CDL school? Who's going to go and sign up to be a truck driver if you look at the media and you have Aurora advertising that we're going to get rid of human drivers, and Kodiak and Gatic, and you see all these companies saying that they're going to get rid of us? Who's going to waste their time signing up to be a truck driver? So maybe Craig's right. Maybe we are on the cusp of an actual driver shortage.
Yeah, they're going to manufacture it.
Exactly. And the reason for it is very simple. It's human incentive. Who in the fuck is going to sign up to be a driver or a trucker if they've never been one before and go through all the training and all the crap that we've talked about? That's all through my book. We all know about this. Who is going to do that if, the media and trucking companies like Hirschbach themselves are implying that we might not need you in a year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever? Why would anybody do that? So there's this gap, there's this interregnum. And I think I was talking with a few guys about this last week. I think that gap puts a lot of power in the hands of drivers, right? If if these companies are going to do this, if a lot of the big freight companies, a lot of the mega carriers that do the pin to pin stuff that's very easy to, you know, autonomize, and will set aside the arguments about how expensive the trucks are, whether or not they're safe. Let's just set all that stuff off to the side. Those are worthy arguments, but for the sake of my argument, let's accept what they're saying at face value. We're going to replace all these drivers on, interstate freight runs. Okay. Um, if if you if you want to keep drivers around and not have them quit and keep your CDL schools open to replace the people who do, you have to do something. You have to give people some incentive, right? You cannot just expect to continue the same low pay, hours of your life lost to detention, dispatchers that miss things out, don't get you home, all the bull crap that truck drivers put up with. You cannot do that and then say, we are going to unemploy you in a year or two or three or five. It just does not work from a human incentive perspective. So in this gap, I think like if we take what you guys are doing, raising a ruckus, telling people stuff, like I mentioned this in my book. I have a whole chapter in my book, End of the Road Inside the War on Truckers, about the implementation of autonomous trucks. And I pose a question at the end of that chapter, which is this: if the government has spent decades subsidizing CDL mills, subsidizing truck driver training at public colleges, all the places, and thrown all this money at the churn and retention problem in trucking, should they also not offer buyouts or offer drivers an out? Like if these autonomous companies are going to come and unemploy everybody, and the same trucking companies who have been at the government tit for 3 or 4 decades to subsidize the training of all the drivers they go through, should not the government also say, hey, if you work for this company that went autonomous, here's some free training program to get you into another job. Here's some buyout package. It seems only fair to me. And again, I lean libertarian. I don't think the government should do anything most of the time. But like, if we accept that these guys got all this money for all these decades, they should also do something for the drivers they're about to lay off, right? And again, I'm repeating myself here, but like, we have this interregnum period where they still need us, and a whole lot of people aren't signing up to do it because they know that they're going to get laid off, right? We might actually have a major driver shortage on our hands if these retards keep talking about it and doing the things the way that they're doing. Discuss.
Yeah, it's very obvious that they're trying to manufacture an actual driver shortage. And the reason they want to also do that is they want to draw out those who are desperate, needing the work from different disparaged places across the country. Here in Iowa, good paying jobs are spread out. 1 in every 9 jobs in Iowa requires a CDL. Okay. So if they can figure out a way to also keep that cost down throughout the process so they have more money to put into our robotic replacements, you have that whole aspect of it too. That plays 100% into the whole mix.
I want to ask Josiah, because his YouTube channel, he's probably getting lots of comments from people out there in the field. What are you hearing about this yourself, sir?
Well, I'm not hearing anything about it. I think that's the biggest problem, is that nobody is talking about it. What happens when you displace 3.8 million workers and they go home, and this is this is just my thoughts on it. And you know this isn't just one income. This is a household income being cut. This is college tuition being cut from a college student who's a mom or dad, helping fund college for their kids to go to college. This is all kinds of things. It is going to drastically be a huge hit on the economy, as well as you start getting a couple people evicted from their homes because they can't pay their rent or their mortgage. They can't put food on the table because they don't have a job, or the jobs just aren't there anymore. And nobody is talking about it. And I think like that's the biggest thing. But as for like government subsidizing truck drivers, I think when I lived in West Virginia, when the coal mines started to shut down, there was a period where the economy dipped down. That was the '07 time, the recession and the housing market crash in '07. What a lot of what you saw happen was they were trying to get coal miners to be computer programmers. Okay. And now I don't have to tell you that you're not going to get some 59-year-old guy to go learn an absolutely new skill trade of computer programming when he's been down in the coal mines his whole life. And I think so for truck drivers, but at least I felt like the state was trying to do something. You know what I mean? They were going to do a re-education and kind of pay them unemployment. There was some kind of like compensation for the coal miners. I would hope that would happen for truck drivers, where it was like a re-education program that they were going to be offering truck drivers to kind of shift into another field. But the problem is that there's a lot of fields. There's the job, it's just I think I read the statistic the other day where it was like recent college graduates, I think 22% of them are underemployed, which just means they're working a job that they don't need their college degree for. So it's just really bad right now.
It's
And
not just
so
truckers. There's all kinds of people across all sectors of the economy that are getting their ass kicked right now.
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
over where I teach at, our computer coding program got smoked by a 30% reduction in enrollees in that program this year. And then at Syracuse, they cut 80 programs from the entire curriculum across Syracuse.
80 programs across the whole university.
Yeah. And then
Holy cow.
apparently there's within the next 10 years, there's going to be like 500 private universities that are going to go under based on the current trends.
Right. And they're seeking to automate anything, any industry they can.
Yeah.
And AI and data collection is exactly how they're feeding it, along with the data center. So, that shows us the additional things we have to fight is that core infrastructure they're building to create the systems that will be fed the data that will then create the way to replace each and every job automation can touch.
Yeah, that concept's called hyper automation, where basically anything that can be automated will be automated. But like, in terms of truck drivers, though, the scariest thing about this is by the time that we really start having truckers get replaced wholesale, like within around 10 years or so, like by that time there's going to be nowhere else to run, because like this is only accelerating, it's only getting faster, and we're only like 3 years away from quantum computing becoming a thing, and that's where shit really starts getting scary. So like we haven't even hit the fun part yet.
Paulette.
I have one of my children is an AI specialist and actually works for a university doing AI programming or some nonsense. And to be fair, I don't understand all of it. And the trend is really to automate everything. Like we talk about the truck drivers and the automation of the trucks, but they're also automating the back end and in the office. The logistics end of it. They're starting to use AI to start to automate, finding loads and planning loads and all of that. And so AI is going to be a big problem. And I know a truck driver who was a truck driver for 34 years, his whole entire life. He's in his late 50s, knows nothing else. And he just recently had to stop driving because of heart problems. And he lost his med card. And he's not old enough to retire. And he's not young enough to be retrained. He's in this gray area. And that's what's going to happen when AI or these trucks start replacing us, and these mega carriers are running around going, oh, this is for the long haul, the drives that the hauls that nobody wants, going coast to coast, But then you've got little companies like Gaddick out there who are doing deliveries for Tyson and Pepsi. You know, those little box trucks are doing the final mile. And they're just pulling it off just fine and dandy. So, I mean, this whole nonsense of we're all going to be moved into doing local, P&D runs is complete nonsense,
Well, yeah, like even going further than Gatic AI too, about like 5, 6, 7 years ago, Ford and Agility Robotics were partnering up to do last mile delivery for like door to door stuff for like Amazon and everything, which took like a autonomous van with a humanoid robot in the back that would pick up a box and deliver on people's doorstep. So, yeah, I'm not sure whether I don't think that's program is still working right now, but that's something else that we could look forward to seeing as well. So like humanoid robots are going to be a whole another ball game.
So Paulette just mentioned something I want to comment on about, the autonomous companies say they, oh, drivers don't want to do the long distance stuff, but actually I think a lot of guys do. I think a lot of people do. There are certain types of folks that, are institutionalized to the road, or their personality just lends towards that, and they actually don't mind it. And in my book, I mentioned this podcast from last year, maybe a little further ago. There's a podcast called Interesting Times with a guy named Ross Douthat, who's sort of one of the token conservatives at the New York Times. Conservatives, air quotes. Think of that what you will. So Douthat is interviewing. Douthat is interviewing J.D. Vance, the vice president. And they're talking about the new pope, and he named himself Leo after Leo the 13th, who did his encyclical Rever Novarum about the first industrial revolution, and he did that very specifically because we're on the cusp of this other one. We're in the middle of another one,
and three actually.
Yeah, and Douthat actually asked Vance some really good questions. It was actually a very good interview, and everybody should go listen to it. If you're listening to this and you haven't heard it, I'll include a link to it in the show notes. But JD Vance said some things, and again, I quite like JD Vance. I think he's all right. He talked about autonomous trucks, and truck drivers should have better jobs, and it's really boring looking out through the windshield 13 hours a day. And I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. A lot of people actually really like driving trucks, and the autonomous vehicle companies are saying, well, you're going to be a remote support specialist, or you're going to work in a breakup yard outside of town somewhere, hooking up the robot truck to a trailer. And that's just going to be you for like 8 or 10 hours a day, standing around in the yard, like hooking trucks up to trailers and hooking up airlines or whatever. And it's like, I don't think that's why most people signed up to be truck drivers, to stand around in one place all day. So, Vance revealed himself to be a little bit disconnected, and I really didn't like his answer very much. And I said as much in my book. Again, I like JD Vance for other things, but I think he's been rickrolled by the autonomous vehicle companies. And I'm curious to know if any of the rest of you guys have seen a similar thing where people are just repeating the ad copy from Kodiak or fucking Wabi or whoever.
Definitely him and Duffy, even Derek Bars, they're all stuck in that kind of mindset that by somehow automating these industries and trucking industry that they're doing us some kind of favor. They're not. They're trying to sell you on a slow kill is what they're trying to do. Because and to put us in a digital cage. That's what they're trying to do.
Sell you on a slow kill. I'm just going to say, I'm going to call this episode that. Well done, Mitchell.
Yeah. Well, the other aspect of this too is that like right now, there was 3 or 4 pro-industry autonomous bills that were being kicked around in the federal legislature for a while, and it sounds like they're all being rolled into the new highway bill that's due this September. I'm hearing that that could be getting delayed until next year. But the industries, the Autonomous Vehicle Industry Association, their members and all that are going ham to try to get all those bills rolled into the Build America 250 Act.
Yeah.
which is going to create a federal regulatory framework for autonomous in all 50 states. And then it's also going to include some like state and local preemption clauses. So local municipalities and states are going to be restricted in being able to regulate it. And yeah, it's, if I was a betting man, I would bet a lot of money that it's going to get legalized. And this administration is going to stab drivers in the back prior
Hold
to the
on.
Oh,
midterms.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on, because both you and Gord, I submitted you guys a project that I'm working on about that, a certain document that lays out a framework of resistance against that, and it has improved substantially, which I'll fill you guys both in on this afterwards, and what that has led to in our further research that gave us basically 6 other ways of attack on this whole platform, on this whole bit about the Build America 250 Act. So there's more coming on that real soon over at the American Transportation Co-op. Just wait.
But yeah, this whole administration, like with all the tech bro corporate capture stuff that's going on, like they're going to roll out the red carpet for this tech as fast as possible here. And if it's not this year, it'll be next year for sure.
So James, I want to ask you a question about that. I want your opinion on this.
Yeah.
I get in trouble a lot for talking about the sort of like the in-sourced labor problem in trucking we've been dealing with, because one of my contentions is that before they replace us with robots, they're replacing a substantial number of us with indentured servants from around the world who work cheaper. Amazon Relay is famous for this, USPS, all the big guys and the brokers, CH Robinson, who just got spanked at this Montgomery versus Caribe decision. But it's pretty clear that they already think that American truck drivers want too much. Safety standards and maintaining trucks costs too much money. Paying us costs too much money. So we'll just let all of these holes in the system open up, and let the gangsters do as they will. And Bars and Duffy have been very responsive to that component of it, right? So getting back to my first point I made about this interregnum period, where they haven't got the tech is not there yet. They haven't got all of the all of the Legos in place yet. People understand that it's coming. So now we may be on the verge of an actual, shortage of people willing to do this, at the same time as Duffy and Bars are trying to kick out all of the in-source labor that really, it's been coming in for a long time, but it really went on steroids under the Biden administration. I have to wonder if, let's say the efforts of people like us and other people who are talking about this bear fruit, and everyone's like, nah, fuck this, man, we're not signing up to be truckers. I wonder if political pressure gets put on Bars and Duffy or anybody else to say, no, we got to keep letting the third worlders in here, because the locals see the robot trucks coming and they want more stuff in order to like continue working till we flip the switch. Like, well, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I don't know, any larger business, any mega carrier and stuff, like, and even outside of trucking, everybody's addicted to cheap labor type of thing. So it doesn't matter if it's like 13-year-olds with glittery school backpacks going into slaughterhouses in Iowa, which like keeps happening, or if it's going to be like some poor bastard that gets like trafficked over here from India, being basically enslaved and thrown into a cab kind of a deal. That's going to be a factor, but I don't know. Like autonomous is going to be an existential threat to this career as a whole, and yeah, just the rate of advancement with all this stuff. By this time next year, I don't think anybody's really going to be talking a whole lot about the migrant driver stuff, because there's 4 OEMs that are spinning up assembly lines. Yeah, and it's not just Aurora that's got orders placed. Torque Robotics plus, and then Gatic all have factories spinning up. So there's going to be a lot of these things rolling off the assembly lines next year, and that's when the first dominoes start to fall. It's only going to accelerate.
Where are those factories? Are they in the United States? Like where are they building them, and who are they building them for? Who other than just Hirschbach has advance orders in for all these trucks?
Well, those orders haven't been announced yet, because as we've seen with Hirschbach, that's going to have some blowback sort of a thing. But like with Plus has been working with Amazon for a while, and they're partnered. They're both partnered up with International, which they've got a manufacturing facility in San Antonio. Torque has another one with Daimler over in Virginia, type of deal. I'm not sure where and then or let's see, Gaddick and Isuzu have one going up in the Carolinas. I think it's South Carolina. Um, but yeah, as far as like actual orders and everything, that's going to remain to be seen. Aurora's claiming 200 autonomous trucks by the end of the year. Then their most recent quarterly statistic, they said them and International are going to be able to put out 1,000 next year. And then, so yeah, like long-winded story. Or yeah,
I want Josiah to comment on this because there's this rumor, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir, that Hirschbach is in some kind of trouble financially right now. Maybe for being first out the gate with this stuff and maybe not quite like completely organized. So, what's going on there? And can you guys tell us and my listeners about the sort of economics of this, right? Like you roll it up to Peterbilt and you want a brand new 589 or 579 whatever, and it costs 200 and whatever grand, but by the time Aurora and Kodiak put their system on it, it's X numbers more. Like what's the economics here? And what's going on with Hirschbach with this like rumor I heard that like they're in trouble now because of like financial trouble because of this stuff.
Well, I definitely don't have access to their financial records, but I can speak that in order to make money at a trucking company, you need truck drivers to take the ship from point A to point B, like plain and simple. And I think Hirschbach kind of forgot that like they thought that other people in the office or the executive team was the ones making the money, but it's just normal truck drivers making money at a trucking company. And so what happened, what I believe happened is because of the mass exodus of drivers, it's just really brought their whole revenue stream down a lot. Now, do I think they're going to go bankrupt? I don't know anything about that. I don't know, but I do feel they've had layoffs. You know, they've done that. Really did happen. They really laid off those employees. So they've closed down the shop in Monmouth, I believe. They closed down another shop in the Northeast, another terminal in the Northeast. So you see those kinds of things, and if I had to guess, I would definitely say they're hurting financially. But also too, this is just there's been I really think because of the huge blowback from drivers. I think they were hurting before these big announcements came with the layoffs and the 500 order or whatever for autonomous trucks from Aurora. But I think since then it's even thrown them even in a further like spiral financially. So, but that's just kind of I've just heard of terminals closing down, the layoffs, and everything else just kind of piled up on them. I think they're definitely hurting, but I don't know. That's the only legal conclusion I can come up with is that just financially they've been dealt a massive blow, and that just shows you that when a lot of truck drivers and people and advocates and everything get together and then they all just say don't go work for this company and everybody that works for that company should stop and leave, like it does something to the company. They gave a 10-cent raise as well. Hirschbach gave a 10 cents raise to their drivers. It's so I mean they're trying really hard to
But at
keep
the same
drivers.
time, let me explain this. Yeah, they are trying, and they're also trying to bring back drivers. And here's some of the things Hirschbach has done. Okay, so you have different accounts. They have different accounts, and you have dedicated, and they're tiered. You make so much a week. Okay, Tyson, if you run the Tyson board, you max out at 1550 a week, and I think it takes about 5 or 6 years to get to 1550. They recently called me about 3 months, 4 months ago, wanted me to come back and offered me $15.50 a week starting. Drivers found out, went nuts. I am also hearing that all of the office staff and everybody, the support personnel that were terminated, rumor has it they were terminated because Hirschbach is playing with AI inside the office. Like a lot of offices now are using AI in conjunction with your normal workflow. Whether that's true or not, that could be just the rumor mill. They are shutting down terminals. They did Springfield, Massachusetts, Monmouth, Illinois. They had their garage there was two. They had a trailer shop and a tractor shop. They closed one down and combined them together.
That's what, yeah. Thank you for that correction too, by the way. All right, yeah, that's what I exactly.
Yeah, I can confirm that too because I was just past there last week. That's what it
Right.
looks like.
And they were telling mechanics like either you're going to move to Joliet, Illinois, which is where we are going to make our main terminal now, or you can be fired. You can be laid off. That was what they were telling mechanics out of like Monmouth, Illinois. I know that they closed down. They had a corporate office and then they had another terminal in East Dubuque. And I know that they just moved their corporate office into a whole new building, and there was chaos there for a while. I'm hearing from a couple of the different accounts that they're having a lot of lates. The drivers aren't showing up, on time, and they're getting in trouble with their accounts again. And so now they're doubling down on drivers, and really riding them hard, like, making sure, micromanaging your butt, like, what do you mean you stop for 10 minutes to go in to get something to eat or whatever? You don't have time to do that. I'm hearing a lot of that.
That's the doom loop. That's like people we're already quitting about that shit, including me 10 years ago. Now they're just accelerating it, and it's only going to get worse.
Oh yeah, and then Hirschbach has made some crazy different things, like their safety guys now were firing people for nonsense. Okay, you go down a hill, you go 5 miles over the speed limit down the hill, you'd get in trouble for that, and if you did it too many times, you got fired. And so safety was firing guys left and right. Corporate came down and said, okay, you got to stop firing people. They brought in some new safety leads, and the new safety leads are firing people left and right still.
And are any of those safety leads former drivers?
Not that I'm aware of. The one that I worked with, the one that I worked with the most, because he was always on my case over speeding. And I, was telling him, like, you don't know. I said, and I used to tell him, I said, you're not a safety coach. You're an insurance man. That's your job, is to keep the insurance rates low. And that's exactly what the safety guys are, And he'd get so mad at me, but I was like, I'm going to drive this truck the way I want to drive this truck. And, I hear so much, rumors coming out of Hirschbach that I don't know how much of it is, drivers trying to find explanations for stuff, or how much of it is, the office staff not being fully informed and just guessing.
This surveillance state shit is this is totally offensive to me, that so many people are just having some electronic asshole over their shoulder telling them how to do their jobs. And then we have James. What was this story that came out a couple weeks ago about Waymo recalled? Was it 4,000 of their taxis that had gone down the interstate and failed to slow down for construction zones?
Yeah, Waymo's just a hot mess. As far as that specific recall, I don't remember the details, but the media and other that I guess let me back up a little bit. So I've got it pulled up right now where, like, Waymo in the last 5 years, just in California, has had over 1,000 crashes since 2021. That's 2021 to 2025, 1,000 crashes. Last time I checked, they've had at least 40 just in California this year, and that's just one state. And they're allegedly the leading safest company that's out there. They're even in Baltimore. I see them going by my house constantly, type of thing. But like, that's the industry leader, and they're crashing all of the fucking time, right? Um, and a lot of that too, it's they're at commercial scale right now. So like, next year when these things start rolling off the assembly line, and say, by the end of next year, if Aurora actually does manage to get 1,000 of these things out on the road, the law of large numbers is going to take over, and Texas is going to be an absolute shit show.
The thing that drives me nuts about this, and we've talked about this before, James, this is nothing new to you, nothing new to my listeners, but I'm going to repeat it because it bears repeating. I have been unemployed in the trucking industry for 3 years now. Exactly. I was laid off on July 5th, 2023 from my last job, which is 6 days from now. I have found it extremely difficult to get back into trucking. And then I watch, Craig Fuller's video last night talking about, we can't find good drivers. Well, I'm not going to, I hate to toot my own horn, but I am one of those good drivers. I've got almost 30 years of experience in 4 different countries, drove on the ice, pulled road trains, done logging, done heavy equipment, oversize, all the fun shit that requires a lot of competency and skill and not getting speeding tickets. I haven't got a speeding ticket since 2005. I'm basically the fucking unicorn that they want, but they actually don't, because I am going to tell all their safety guys to go fuck themselves because I know what I'm doing, right? And I also want X number of dollars. I want paid for all of my hours of detention. And if a dispatcher lies to me about something or fucks something up or some customer screws something up, you're going to pay me or I'm going to park your truck. So they say all this shit about wanting safe drivers. I am that safe driver. I've never been involved in a collision. I don't know. Josiah probably hasn't been. I don't think Mitchell's been. I don't think Paulette's been. I think between the four of us, there's like zero safety concern. Why are these people telling the fucking media that these robots that keep screwing things up are somehow more safe than us? And then all of the safety concerns, air quotes, come from these same nerds that try and tell people like us who actually drive and know what we're doing how to do our jobs, and then we quit because we don't want to listen to this shit. Like it's this catch-22. Oh, we want safe drivers, but if you are a safe driver and know what you're doing, we're still going to micromanage you and treat you like shit, and then you're going to quit. Like something has to give here. What is that thing?
Well, at least in terms of media and everything, like advertising spending is down, and then also like even Aurora mentioned this in their 2021 investor report that autonomous trucks could do the same thing that happened in digital advertising, where Google and Facebook now dominate 70% of the industry for digital advertising. So basically, those tech companies have media outlets by the balls, and they do a lot of advertising through those media outlets. So basically, yeah, the corporate capture of the media is like full blown. And that's why like I've had so much trouble getting the Stealing Fire published. It took me 3 years to find a publisher that would take that into account. But yeah, the reason that we're not having these conversations that we need to have is because publications don't want to lose access, and if that those advertising dollars from like, say Goldman Sachs or any, but Google would be a huge one because they're got their fingers in a lot of the autonomous trucking pies. If they start pulling advertising spending through like the New York Times or wherever else, or the however many tens of millions of dollars that the New York Times just did with Amazon, ultimately those guys know who signs their paychecks.
Speaking of Google, so Mr. Wildbeard, your show is it primarily on YouTube or is it on other platforms?
It's on YouTube.
So have you ever got like a strike or some weird thing from YouTube about the things you're saying about autonomous trucks while you've been doing your thing?
Not yet.
Oh, you will. Keep after it long enough and you will. I'm a shadow ban expert on this whole level.
Yeah, we'll see. I've tried to I've said some harsh things, and I've definitely pushed the envelope, but I've always tried to stay within the parameters of what they allow and what they don't allow. And so I've always tried to initiate and do that. I've kept my nose pretty clean on it. Not to say that I haven't been flat or people haven't tried, um, because on Facebook and Instagram I've had posts flagged and taken down. The one that went viral on Facebook was taken down, but that was Hirschbach flagging for their logo. So, and I was
That was like a copyright thing.
yeah, I was legally using their logo. I was talking about the company, reviewing the company. I wasn't representing them. As long as I think the law is, as long as you're not representing the company or people don't think that you are, in essence, Hirschbach or whatever, then it's okay. Then you can't use it if you're trying to impersonate somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the fair
Um,
use thing. Fair
yeah,
use.
yeah, yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
actually, you could probably take him to court over that if you wanted to.
No, I've got a file. I've got a file of things that I don't really seek to do that. I'm just kind of letting Hirschbach play out what they want to do. They seem to be just shooting themselves in the foot time after time, over and over again with everything they're trying to do, from calling the police to reporting me to the FBI and all that stuff, all that drama. So they just do more and more, and all I'm really doing is just being transparent about what they're doing to me behind the scenes. You know.
Exactly. And that's what they don't want is transparency. What their response is what I call they're shaking in their little space boots.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you're ousting them. They don't want that transparency. It's counterintuitive to their overall agenda and the overall agenda of whose puppet strings are attached to them on a global scale.
Yeah, and I think too, being so rooted in the company, like I knew so many people. People have just messaged me all kinds of stuff that I knew there. Like, somebody told me, I can't remember if I talked about this on a video yet or not, but this was a rumor. You can take it for what it is, gossip, whatever. You know what I mean? But what I was told was they had some Mormon missionaries come in to Dubuque, and then they had the new building that they were doing, the new terminal building, the new headquarter building that they were building there. They had those Mormon missionaries come in and do construction and kind of gut the new building out, which is just like, like those are 18 and 19-year-old like Mormon missionaries. And those Mormon missionaries, those people were meant to paint houses of old ladies. You know what I mean? Like that's what you do in missionary work. Like, you know what I mean? And now there's a for-profit business having free labor come in there to work for them, which is another sign that they were financially hurting too, in my opinion. Why would you have free labor come in there to work for a for-profit company? Because you need the free labor, trying to save money, penny pinch, whatever you want, economical, whatever. So it was just stuff like that. They don't realize that I was so entrenched in the company as well as the community of Dubuque as well. I just knew a lot of people.
Well,
You bring up the Mormons, and that reminds me of, years ago, and I'm talking, God, probably 30 years ago, 40 years ago, because my ex-husband worked there. Consolidated Freightways, back in the day, was a huge, huge company, and they were Mormon owned. And what they did, they were a union company. And what happened was they were losing money, so they spun it off onto Conway, and Conway was non-union. And then it's been changed the name several times. And from what I understand, if you follow the trail in the rabbit hole, they're now XPO. And it is, got a lot of Mormons in on the board. And I think even the church itself is one of the financial investors. So that's interesting that you said that he was bringing in the Mormon missionaries because, and you're right, those young men who come, part of their mission for the 2 years that they're out is to do service, is to help the community and anybody in the community for free. And if they were, helping at redo the corporate headquarters for free, or, for pizza, That's, completely interesting to me to see that maybe there's Mormon ties, but then, you hear that Richard Stocking lives up in Utah.
Oh yeah, he's definitely in league with the Mormon. I believe his wife works for the Mormon Church or something too. I don't know that for sure, but I want to say this: I don't have anything against the Mormon Church or anybody that's a Mormon, by the way. Like, but if I was part of the Mormon Church, it would be very concerning to me to find out if it was true that there was a for-profit business coming in and having my teenager, who was 18 or 19 years old, kid, go down there and work for a for-profit company to help benefit some CEO and some Hirschbach or whatever. Like as if I was a tithing member of the church, it would really be concerning to me. Is what I'm saying.
And that's where I'm coming from that point of view. I am not Mormon, but some of my children are.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been around the Mormon church, for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand. And yeah, you're right. It's to help little old ladies or, just different people in the community. It's not to
Lower economical status people who need their house worked on, need a new roof. The kid, they can help. They go around. They do all kinds of different things. The Mormons missionaries do all kinds of. They share the gospel. They ride their bicycles and do that. Do nice things for people. It's just, I just think when I grew up in the church, not the Mormon church, obviously, but I did grow up in a church, in a Christian church. And so when I think of mission work, I've been on mission trips. There was a flood one time in West Virginia. The churches all gathered together and brought like a team of people down there to help the flood victims because their houses were flooded. So we helped them with like cleaning supplies. We brought cleaning supplies down there, did a lot of work. But that was because they were flood victims in a low income area of West Virginia. You know what I mean? Like it
yeah.
wasn't a for profit business that we were going down there and gutting their building for them or whatever, So it's just like when I think of missionary work, it just boggles my mind to think of mission work to go work for Walmart. You know what I mean? And like help them with a building project or something. Like that's not what I think of. So it was just like that. But that's just one of the things. Like I'm so in depth and it tied in with that company. I just don't think they saw. They expected some kind of blowback like this.
Well,
Or strong reaction.
the fun thing about this though too is that I've got an investor presentation from November 2023 from Aurora pulled up right now. Shit, I just lost it. I started scrolling too fast. But yeah, back in 2023, they had FedEx, Werner, Schneider, Hirschbach, and Uber Freight, and then previously they also had Covenant was another one, and now in 2026, the most recent one is just Hirschbach, Werner, Detmar Logistics, McLean, and Uber. So I'm really curious why the other ones dropped out because FedEx, that's a huge deal. And if I would have to guess, the first domino to fall in this is going to be whenever Amazon starts getting into the game in the parcel market. If Amazon goes, then FedEx is going to have to buy in, and UPS has been snooping around with some other carriers out there too. But yeah, I don't know, just like the lack of like some of the biggest players in this market, especially in line haul. I'm curious why they're not more interested in it's like kind of like these smaller, bigger carriers that are biting off on it the most.
I do know that Kodiak and Torque, they have some major fleets, that they're playing with. One of them is playing with Schneider, and one of them is playing around with shoot, I can't think of them now.
No.
But I know they are playing around, but it's the different company. It's over there at Kodiak or over at Torque.
There's other experimentation going on with bigger carriers and stuff. Like I know Waymo and UPS were a thing a few years ago. And
yeah.
But yeah, and the other fun fact too is that Waymo never really left the trucking market. They're in a dual track strategy with Torque and Daimler, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out too.
One of y'all was about to ask me a question.
Yeah, that was me. This is for anybody really, but Gordon, James, Paulette, Mitchell, whoever, but there's been some. I've heard some different executives at trucking companies also talk about like, I think Crete put out a video, and they were talking there. I believe some of their executive team was talking and saying, um, like, what about autonomous trucks? Like, well, autonomous trucks, that's that Facebook trucking or whatever, or something like that nature. They've kind of dismissed it, and I've also been told by other executives personally, that it's nowhere near in the future. Like, this is still a very distant time away. It's not happening anytime soon. We're not invested in it, like, because we don't feel like it's that it like our business model now is serving us really well, and it is serving, like, they're doing a really good job, like, in the market that we're in, like, they're doing good. So they're like, our business model right now is doing really well, so we don't really see the need to change it. Why do you think that kind of messaging is coming across from other companies like Crete and other companies that around that same size? What's your thoughts on why they would say something like that? Do you think it's sincere? Do they really believe that? Are they just trying to downplay it, or what's going on?
I think at this point that they're waiting to see. They're in a holding pattern, because if you look at where most of these autonomous trucks and everything are running around, it's down in the Southwest, in the deserts. They're starting to play with rain. They're starting to run at night, but nobody's running the mountains in the wintertime on snow and ice yet. And that's a big thing. And if you're in any newer truck that has the Bendix systems in it, in the wintertime, you get salt on those things. You got to get out there at the truck stop and, at the fuel island and clean them off, because it's beeping at you and driving you batshit crazy. So I think that's what they're waiting to see. And I know Kodiak's been playing with that up in, I think, Ohio or Indiana. They have a closed track up there for winter driving that they're playing with.
Yeah, and then like personally, I think they believe it. But the thing is that in the Industrial Revolution, there was the same concern with the steam engine. Like, the first steam engines could only be placed outside the mines that they're pumping water out of, sort of a thing, because it wasn't economical for them to like start moving the coal further and further away, just because of how inefficient, how terrible the first ones are, right? But it didn't matter. Eventually, they still took over the world, and changed everything. But yeah, it's the the thing that's really going to set this off again. Like, if I was going to be a bet man, Amazon is going to be the first one to do it, and if they do it, then all the other dominoes start to fall. But back with the going back to the steam engines and stuff, when one player got into the market and started like really using that technology to its biggest potential and started undermining all the competitors' costs, like when that starts happening, all of this is going to accelerate and it is going to take over. Yeah, like in Aurora's 2021 investment report, they were talking about the virtuous cycles, or the virtuous circle, which is an economics term for this, where like beneficial interactions in the market lead to more beneficial interactions. I've got pulled up here where they're saying it's a circular. You've got increased scale. Increased scale leads to more data, deeper insights, improved perception and forecasting model results. Then that leads to more expansive, better updated maps. And then you got enhanced embeddedness with partners and improved service from partners. So the bigger and the better it gets, the more it's going to impact and the more it spreads. And they even went as far to say, we believe these virtuous cycles will create only a handful of winners, and winner take most dynamics in the self-driving market. So that's whenever, like, whoever's going to be the first one, like the first bigger companies to do this at scale, say for the sake of argument, it's Hirschbach, and they don't go under before then. If Hirschbach does it, then they're going to force Werner to play the game too, and then everybody else has to play. So I think that's kind of where it's at.
You go back to like the ELD. I mean, Werner was the one who really pushed that to go into effect, and once it worked for them, everybody else jumped on board, back when they were what, A boards or A BORDs or, so yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to be a domino effect. One guy makes money and everybody else is going to jump on board.
So
Right.
I'm going to speak to a particular thing of
I have some sentiment to add. But
yeah, Mr. Wildbeard's question about, why some of these guys are downplaying it. They're downplaying the autonomous stuff. Well, they want to keep drivers around. Getting back to our original first part of our
Mhm.
discussion about this was like, they're going to flip a switch one day, and they need to keep us around until that switch gets flipped. Also, a number of very large carriers in America are, again, back to the immigration and source labor thing, have transitioned. I don't know if like Crete specifically has done this, but this power only thing, right? Where JB Hunt, Knight Swift, Warner, they have their own power only boards where they function like Amazon Relay or FedEx, where they have all these subcontractors pulling their trailers because why pay drivers? Why pay for trucks? And all of that, a lot of that subcontracting is done by small companies owned by people from overseas or recent migrants who only employ their own. I talked about this in my book. I've talked about a lot of people about this. Um, you want to talk about discrimination? Trucking companies owned by foreigners discriminate openly against American and Canadian drivers because we play by the rules and we want more money, and they know that they can abuse their own. And all of these people know this. So why own trucks when you can subcontract out on power only boards with guys from Uzbekistan or Moldova or Pakistan or whatever, and they employ their own guys. Maybe they're legal, maybe they're not. Maybe it's a dodgy visa. Maybe they got their CDL at some crap school in California or Texas or wherever. It doesn't matter. The point is that they are offloading all of the cost onto the power only guys, and they will keep doing that until they get their robots, and they get the robots at scale, and the robots are even cheaper than the in-sourced labor. So
right.
I think when we hear people like Crete or anybody else saying, "Well, we're not sure yet. It's going to be a little while."
Right.
I mean, maybe it will be a little while, but they're only saying that to keep around the labor they already have. I'm being
Yeah.
cynical. Sorry.
Well, S&P
Yeah.
Global just stated earlier this year that they stated that Aurora could have as many as 12,000 trucks by the end of the decade, and that's just Aurora. So those 12,000 trucks could be doing the work of anywhere between like 24,000, 36,000 drivers. And then, based on asset utilization rates, and then, who the hell knows where, um, you know, Plus and Torque and everybody else is going to be at too. So like, if that's all concentrated in Texas and the Southwest, at least initially, that's going to be a hell of a problem down there. And that's going to affect drivers from all across the country. And they're going to be going after the highest paying freight first to maximize the return on investment.
Right. Right. And there's a lot of different focal points into this. And I want to go back quick to Wildbeard's question, why are these CEO heads of these companies not seeing this, or how are they not seeing it and such? I think a lot of them are kind of stuck in, they're managing the day-to-day operations of the company, but any of these companies right now, who have active retirement plans through big retirement brokers, to handle their 401ks or everything that the company's portfolio or the employees' portfolios are invested into. Well, look at where those funds are going. They are going to the big corporate hedge funds controlled by BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. All those have stake within all the autonomous companies. And this goes further up into all the puppet strings of the World Economic Forum. Don't believe me? Look on their website. It's pretty evident to see where the puppet strings lie in that regard. So there's where the money's coming from. They might not be aware of how it's going to it or how it's invested into it, but that money's flowing from one avenue or another. When the calculations have come out that it's about 70% of every American dollar spent is going in a way back to like BlackRock's pocket, basically. So those are investment firms are heavily invested into the autonomous companies. 2 and 2 equals 4, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, kind of feeding into that a little bit. Morgan Stanley, and granted, this is kind of go off in the weeds here on a different type of tech that's rapidly gaining steam right now. But yeah, Morgan Stanley said last year that humanoid robotics by 2050, there's going to be 62 million of them in the US, and it's going to take 30% of all the wages out of the United States. And that's, you know, put trucking on top of that, like the autonomous trucking is about roughly a $200 to $300 billion labor market right now. So, you know, by 2035, who the hell knows what that's going to be, type of a thing. But yeah, it's every single part of the supply chain is going to get automated, whether it's autonomous trucks, humanoid robots, class 7 box trucks, rideshare, whatever else, drones. Yeah,
Well,
it's
I
going to be
know
done.
that Tyson is using in some of their DCs, they're using the little robotic forklift things to load and unload the trailers right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's Tyson, then you can assume that JBS, Cargill, and everybody else is in on it, you know.
Does that mean they'll
So,
cut down on detention time? Like you'll actually get loaded in a timely manner, or
oh hell no.
are they just saving money on labor and their disorganization is still rampant?
They're still disorganized. I mean, I don't do a lot with Tyson anymore. I, you know, mainly haul eggs now. I take eggs to the West Coast and produce back. So, and you know, because it's eggs, I get unloaded really quick, or you know.
What is it about eggs? I want to go on a little diversion here. Why do you get unloaded so fast? Just because it's eggs?
Because it always seems like there's a shortage of eggs, you know, and we are, you know, coming up to holidays and stuff, you know, 4th of July, people are going to be having parties. You're going to use, you know, deviled eggs, potato salad, you know, this salad, that salad, you know, with your hard boiled eggs. And then, you know, the fall, you've got the baking season for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then, you know, turn around in the spring, you've got Easter and people are baking for that. And eggs just seem to be popular. And then anytime they say bird flu, people panic and go buy, you know, 10 dozen eggs at the store.
So the distribution centers and cooler warehouses and all the points of interaction that truckers go into, if you have eggs, you bypass all of the usual bullshit and get unloaded quicker.
Normally, yeah, there's a like Cisco is one. Like if I go into Cisco, let's say I've got a 5 p.m. appointment tomorrow, but I showed up today at 2 o'clock, I'll be unloaded and out in an hour.
Wow.
You know, Cisco will take us anytime. Your appointment is irrelevant. You know, when you get there and you get a door as soon as they have one available. Yeah.
Right. It's interesting how they prioritize eggs. That's a really cool useless factoid.
Well, another useless factoid is ice cream too. If you're hauling ice cream, that's a quick unload too and a quick load.
Huh.
Just so you know.
Well, so hey, then that leads into something about like asset utilization, right? So one of the things I've always complained about in trucking, and this has been backed up by none other than the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, is the detention problem, right? So like I like to say that a lot of the issues in trucking, especially the retention and churn problem and various other things, are downstream of the fact that we're not utilizing trucks well enough and we're wasting everybody's time and drivers get shafted everywhere and refrigerated warehouses view reefer trailers as much cheaper storage and then you don't get paid for it. And you know, I referenced this series of MIT studies, and I wonder if you know the implementation of autonomous trucks, you know, like obviously they're going to have shunters and trailer pools and they're going to figure out how to make this thing work with less humans and hopefully more efficiency, but like the thing with trucking is we interact with places, we interact with facilities, and a lot of those facilities are run by companies who are cheap cocksuckers that don't want to pay to make those facilities more efficient. They don't want to expand them. They don't want to like have more people. They don't want to do anything about the fact like, oh, we have to have the counts confirmed on all the pallets, even though that's got nothing to do with the driver, and the driver is still going to drive away, and your accountants are still going to have a fight with your supplier about it. But we still have to hold the driver up while we count everything. Like all of this dumb shit. When it's autonomous systems with all of the extra costs they come with, like if you have an autonomous truck with no driver in it, I wonder how that changes the game with the detention stuff. I was like, anybody given this any thought? I have no idea.
Well, the interesting thing about that though is that what Aurora is saying, they've recently come out with a like a climate impact study type of a thing that they paid for. I forgot who they had do that study, but they're claiming that they're going to get like 30% increase or upwards of 30% increase in fuel economy somehow. That used to be only 10, but one of the ways that they're talking about doing that is taking advantage more night driving with lower traffic and all that. So like a lot more of the industry as this takes off. And I think they're right in the fact that it is going to shift more to night driving to get the safety benefits and all that type of a thing. But yeah, it's going to completely overhaul the industry and like the time frames, scheduling, and all of that. And then to more of the initial point on the what it's going to do to detention times. If you got robots, in the truck and loading the truck and all that kind of stuff, now there's not the economic incentive of like detention pay and all that. Who knows? It might even get slower since they don't have to worry about that. So since there's not a person bitching about it. But yeah, I don't know. Like everything about this,
it might even get slower. Amazing.
Maybe
the enshittification continues. Your grocery store is going to be lacking in even more stuff because they care about the robots even less than the human drivers.
Yeah, potentially. It's that remains to be seen. But like the other fun thing about this too is that they're all saying they're greenwashing this technology like crazy, where they're saying it's going to be far more environmentally friendly and carbon neutral and blah 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 blah, which is total bullshit. But if you make it faster, easier, and cheaper to move freight, you're going to move more of it. And if you take into account intermodal and how that's going to compete against autonomous trucks, I've got one source that's telling me it's going to be a carbon bomb on top of it too. So like even tree huggers have reason to be pissed off about this. So anyways, sorry for my rant.
Rant away. This show, Voice of Gord podcast is pro rant. Does anybody else have a rant to add?
Well, you guys were talking about detention, and so I'll bring this up. Hirschbach has dedicated accounts that a driver goes on, and you get, a set dollar amount every week, and you do not get detention. So if you have to sit at a Walmart DC for 6 hours, you don't get detention for that because you get your guaranteed pay every week. However, Hirschbach gets detention, and I have, and it is a couple of years old, but I have their master detention list, and they were getting like, I think it was 84 cents a minute if the driver sat at a Walmart DC.
Really?
Yeah, and if I know Tyson drivers who work for Tyson itself, okay? Tyson pays every time you hook to a trailer, every empty trailer you drop, every loaded trailer you drop. Your detention starts an hour after you arrive somewhere. I mean, they pay all of this stuff where, like at Hirschbach, if you're on the Tyson account, you don't see any of this money at all.
So it's
but Hirschbach gets it.
So it's roughly $50 an hour in detention that Hirschbach is charging?
Correct.
Which the driver does not see.
Exactly, because you get a guarantee every week.
Fuck. Wow. And
they do it on several of their accounts.
I have no sympathy. I understand. Maybe Mr. Wildbeard can clear this up. There was some FBI involvement with something to do with Hirschbach in your program, sir?
Yes. When it was after I dropped the first video where I was talking about them calling the police on me, I dropped that video And then probably several weeks later, probably like three weeks later, I got a call from the FBI, Levi Metchner of the FBI Kansas City field office, Agent Levi Metchner of the Kansas City FBI field office, called me up, and he told me that he's like, man, he's like, just want to talk to you. He's like, and by the way, before we even get started, I think you're a really good dude, And he was just like, he's like, just sometimes a file comes across my desk, and I've got to do my job, and he's like, well. And I was like, man, I understand. Go ahead, man. I'll talk to you, man. As long, if you say I haven't done anything illegal and I'm not in trouble, then why do I. So I'm sitting there talking to him, and he says, he's like, well, let's just start out. He's like, looks like Hirschbach kind of got butt hurt by a Facebook post that you put out there, and and dude, we were laughing for 16 minutes on the phone. But in essence, yeah, Hirschbach called the police because of that AI picture that I put on Facebook, and then they didn't really file to the FBI, I believe, until after the video dropped of me talking about them calling the police. So, but the FBI did call me. I think they were just, I think they've just been in a panic mode, scrambling, trying to do something to fight back against me. I really, so that's what I think they're trying to do, and I think it was more of an intimidation and fear.
Right. So I want to share something with you, Mr. Wildbeard, that happened to me a few years ago. Um, I defended the Freedom Convoy in Canada, in various ways. I went home to show solidarity with it, and I was very much against the execution of the COVID regime by Justin Trudeau in my native Canada. And let's just say I was sharing some spicy memes on Twitter under posts by Mr. Trudeau, and apparently they reached the level of threat where the Canadian equivalent of the Secret Service, who I believe are called the Protective Investigations Unit of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, found my phone number and called me up and said, "Hey, Mr. McGill, what's with these pictures of Simo Haya, the famous Finnish sniper, under Justin Trudeau's posts on Twitter?" And I'm like, well, I live in the United States now, and I have First Amendment protections against for my freedom of speech. And fuck you, you can go to hell. I don't care. Justin Trudeau's destroying Canada. And I told this cop, I believe his name was Constable Clowry. I remember it very well. I have his email address now. I said, Constable Clowry, my grandfather landed a Sherman tank in Normandy, D-Day +3, fought actual Nazis in a Canadian uniform. And now this fucking faggot you work for, Justin Trudeau, is worried about me posting a photo on Twitter, and you're calling me in the United States to say I'm some kind of bad guy for posting a picture on Twitter? And he's like, well, we have our rules, and we would appreciate it if you stopped doing that so that I could actually concentrate on real crime. And I said to him, that's your fucking problem. And I appreciate your time calling me, sir, and I appreciate what you have to do. But I wish I would have told him this. I thought this in my head, but I didn't say it. Constable Clowry, you and your team are in the proximity and are well equipped enough to save Canada from itself, and maybe you should go do that. And then maybe they actually might have called FBI to come and get me and send me back to Canada. But anyway, Mr. Wildbeard, I've been on your shoes, but with the Prime Minister of Canada.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was funny because the agent told me, Agent Metchner told me, he said, he's like, I showed this picture to my colleague, and my colleague said, yeah, I know they're on their knees with their hands behind their back, and I know his hands are on their head, but how do we know he's not praying for them? Like, it was just like, dude, it was I think like for me, I know the picture was a little bit edgy, but bro, like I think Hirschbach has just overstated, like just well overshot it so much from, and I think also too, I don't think the police department, the Dubuque Police Department or the FBI field office, I don't think any of them really care about autonomous trucks, but I do think that most normal people, whether you're attached to trucking industry, logistics, or anything like that, I think most normal people just don't like it when a bunch of CEOs get together and just try to piss on a little guy. Everybody's just kind of tired of that at this point, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the fun thing about all this too is I don't know if you guys saw, but Wired apparently came into possession of more than 1,000 pages and unpublished reports from the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and there's some other folks or whatever that was going off and saying that, raising all the concern about all the anti-technology extremists and the threat of terrorism coming from the left and Antifa and anybody that's critical of data centers and AI and shit. It's again going back to the historical stuff. When people started smashing the looms, they instituted the death penalty and then started an entire campaign of repression. And it seems like we're starting to follow that playbook, verbatim with how this is going on.
History always repeats itself.
Mm.
Absolutely. In
Yeah.
certain ways, in parallel ways, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then like with the More Perfect Union video that came out there last year, I'm sure I'm on that list for whatever reason type of thing, for being skeptical about the
We all
social.
are. We all are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How's the old saying go? If you're not on the list, you're doing it wrong.
I guess. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hashtag America 2026.
Yeah, it's America's 250th anniversary this year. I am an immigrant to this country, and I like it better than where I came from, despite all of its foibles and problems and the very things we're talking about today. So, I think we sort of have a duty to continue speaking up. That's the whole point of the First Amendment. You have a right to say what you want to say about politics and about the direction the country is going. And the direction of the country is heavily influenced by very large corporations who would rather not spend money on us and would rather spend it on cheaper robots, supposedly cheaper robots, at some point in the future. And we all have a right to be skeptical of that and to have this discussion. And I do not believe the FBI is going to show up at any of our houses because of it. Thus far, my podcast has produced no calls from the government. So I think we're okay for now.
Yep.
So I've had everybody here now for quite a while. We're pushing 90 minutes. I want to be mindful of your time. We've covered quite a bit. Is there anything we missed, or is there any news item, any little thing rolling around in your heads you want to share with everybody?
Well, I read this interesting article the other day. Japan did a study over there, and they found out that the drivers who drive manual cars have a better attention span, and they're safer, and all this stuff. I mean, it was incredible. I'll send it to you here.
Please do this, and this is my surprised face, by the way.
But it was really, like you have more attention to the detail and to the road, and like we all say in trucking, you want to make trucking safer, bring back the manual transmission. We've said that for what, decades now?
Yeah, my friend Rob Carpenter, who occasionally writes for FreightWaves, did a really awesome article for them a few months ago, and he laid it all out. He brought the statistics about how automatic transmissions became more prevalent 20 odd years ago, and then showed how all of the problems in trucking started creeping up and getting worse as automatic transmissions became more adopted. Like it's a direct correlation. There's no ignoring it.
Well, yeah, even like in the cars too. I mean, you got to pay more attention, than having all these automatic cars out there. Like I have a little car and it's a manual, and I like
Based.
my little, and I can leave the little key pod thing in the car and walk away. No one can steal my car because no one knows how to fucking drive them anymore. It's great. I don't lock the doors or nothing, and the little key fob thing or whatever you call it, it's in the console. Yeah, go for it. Take my car. Do you know how
It's
to
the
do it?
millennial anti-theft device.
Yeah. Well, not
Yeah.
all millennials. My two oldest children do know how to drive manuals, and then one of my
I'm a
other kids,
millennial.
the younger. So I
It's
know
a
you're the same
Gen
age as
Z
my kids.
anti-theft device.
Yeah. Anyway, I put that up in the chat for
I
you
see
there,
that. Thank
Gord.
you. I see that. Thank you so much, Paulette. That's fantastic. I'll include that in the show notes. You're preaching to the choir here. Anybody else? Some final parting thoughts?
Yeah. If anybody's looking for a fun read on one aspect of this that isn't getting enough attention is going to be like the state level legislative battles that are happening. Like the Teamsters are kind of leading the charge on that, along with the WIDA's doing some good work too. But like as of now, the Teamsters have active fights in California, Colorado, Illinois. They just beat AV bills and just like kicked Waymo in the nuts. And Maryland recently, and on top of that, also Minnesota, Missouri, Oregon, Virginia, and Washington. And then they've got other bills in Nevada, Delaware, Massachusetts, and Texas too. So there's been an ongoing fight at the state level for a while that big surprise, media is not covering it, but yeah, something to look into there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if those that want to stay or or be more participating in the ongoing battle with all this, that all this AI and autonomous is developed responsibly, we're heavily engaged in a lot of that work, and we've built a cooperative, the American Transportation Cooperative. You can find our Facebook group. It's private right now while we build more infrastructure to support our methods. One of the big things we're doing in counter to the Build America 250 Act and those legislative battles that James is getting at is the Transportation Worker Data and Transparency Protection Act. And we have a working model version of that, version 2.1. And we are branching that out and dividing that up into, I believe, like 6 different subsidiary bills that are going to hyper focus more on the specific parts and be more passable. And that it lays it out just like what it states. And it also provides a framework for other industries to use, because that's what it all amounts to is, more secured interest of data control in the workers' hands and the transparent measures that go into that and what protection framework we put in for workers. So that's a bit about what we're trying to work on in that sentiment.
Fantastic. Mr. Henry, Mr. Wildbeard, any final thoughts, sir?
I think it's going to take all of us. I think it takes all of us of all different kinds of people to fight back the greed of these big companies, and that's what it comes down to. It's just a lot of greed, and I think one of the things that really bothers me the most is that they're just trying to take away. I think most people, including myself, we just want to make a living. We just want to pay the rent. We just want to buy food, and we just want to support our family. And it's just like that. I guess that's just too much to ask for a life these days. And they want to take that from us. And I think that just shows you how far the greed has gone at this point. Like it's like what they have just isn't good enough, and they want more, and they want to just take it from just normal people who are just trying to enjoy their families, enjoy their kids, enjoy their car or their apartment, or just basic stuff in life. And it just really bothers me. I think that's one of the biggest things that bothers me. It's like they didn't have enough, so they want to take some more, and that's
It's
just
about
greed.
control. They've got all the
Yeah,
money, so it's about control, really,
yeah, yeah.
and making a whole new depth of interdependence. So you're dependent upon the systems they plan on building and further digitizing our society into methods they control. So their new infrastructure they're paving the way for creates absolute dependence upon them and less independence from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for joining the show. Thank you to my listeners for continuing to listen to my podcast, as sort of spastic and unscheduled as it is. My life is very busy with young kids and a non-trucking job and writing and lots of stuff going on. And my wife is a overworked super mom and overcommitted and all that. I've said it a million times. So thanks everybody for being patient with my podcasting frequency. And thank all you guys for joining us. I appreciate it. I'll have links to everyone's social media such that they have them. All of your websites, all of the stuff you've shared will all be in the show notes. If you want to yell at us and tell any of us we're wrong, my email address will also be there. By all means, please tell me what we're doing wrong. Give us constructive criticism. And, thank you very much for listening. And way of the road.